Hello kids, today I will tell you the tale of Noobie. Noobie is not a heavy user, but Noobie likes cannabis, and you know the problems when buying on the street, so Noobie decided he wants to grow his own plants. He also wanted to find out if you have to be a cross between a botanist, wizard and scientist to harvest your own weed. He is growing food in his garden for decades, but still was somehow not sure if he could do the same with cannabis. Sadly, it is true that the mainstream cannabis scene really makes you think that. But after doing some research on outdoor growing, he decided it's time. It is time to look out for some spots in the beautiful nature of South Finland and have this year the same fun as Mommy and Daddy Rabbit. He wanted that the spots are facing south, have a water source nearby and multiple paths too that normal people would not choose. He just needed to pray that this dude won't visit Finland in the next time. Was he ever worried about getting caught? No, not really. Noobie was very sure that no one will walk across any of his spots for the whole year. What a shame if you watch these pictures again, it is just stunning. To prepare some real planting spots, he dug some holes and added his own soil. He fertilized it with a ton of chicken shit. May these little trees rest in peace. There he added some ground up limestone to lower the pH level of the soil. In pine areas it is higher as the lovely cannabis plant wants it, so he took care of it. He also found some rocks and formed with the help of these a little pot. Very unique. Our little friend Noobie bought his seeds from a local grower who is doing this also since decades. These are called to be bred outside, so be very tough. He decided to go for one early photoperiodic and 3 different auto-flowering strains. If you have anything to do with cannabis, I bet you already heard of the famous strains Piku Typhoon, P2, PPC and Northern Sun. All of these are regular, so not feminized seeds, which is really cool. If you just think about it, those should be the most natural, so in general, the best ones. And now we have the middle of April and he started to germinate the first early ones in milk cartons. Later he moved them into one of his covered raised beds in the garden while he started the autoflowers in early May. And I really gotta admit, little cannabis plants look very cool next to tomatoes and chilies. And they even look like tomatoes. In total he started with 40 seeds, only 30 of them germinated and some sadly died on the way along. After he was able to tell the difference between the males and females, he pulled the males and ended up with around 10 female plants total. But we are not there yet. So, at the end of May, it was time to bring the little plants into the wild. Some here, some there, and so it continues. The important thing now is to take a moment to appreciate the beauty of these ones. Oh yes, very, very nice. To keep wild deer, moose, rabbits and equals away from the plants, he applied stuff like shavings of hard soap, toothpaste, dog hair and the most obvious one, urine. Whenever he was visibly able to tell the difference between males and females, he removed the males. Poor guys. I better tell you that before so you will know it for all plants. Noobie gave the plants later in their flowering stage some autumn fertilizer for gardens. Some really basic stuff and probably the cheapest option. And then Noobie found someone who really liked him. But sadly he did not feel the same about Mr. Fern. He just wanted to check on his girls, but only Mr. Fern was to be seen. Well, there, behind Mr. Fern they were. Still very tiny and now shadowed. So sadly, one of the fronds had to give way. It was the same case with these two. It even looks like Mr. Fern caged them behind these bars, so Noobie had to free them. When he came back another time, Mr. Fern followed. But this time they were already big and strong enough to stand against Mr. Fern on their own. But we know everybody's glad to have someone strengthening his back. And for these plants, it was Noobie for their whole life. And like this, the plants were able to grow big and produce many healthy flowers. One of them decided to play a bit with the colors while the other one went for quantity instead. We can walk the same path, but we don't have to be equals. But from another perspective, we do just look like twins. After more time, the colorful plant turned completely into a mix of yellow and purple that really fits her. But sometimes the price for too much craziness is a bit of moldiness on yourself, but luckily Noobie was there to get her back in shape before taking her home. Now let us have a closer look on the P2 autoflowers. First, both of them look very similar and just grow together. The space there was very limited and the left plant got, we can say, trained by nature. Some snails decided to take a few bites from it and it even got bent to the side. So while the right plant just flowered out on her whole body as it was, the left plant lifted herself up again and grew more tops. And after some time you can see that the naturally trained plant produced a lot more flowers. And while the left plant got eaten by animals and became bigger, the right one lives smaller but in peace with its habitants. Isn't it beautiful? And sometimes we are just like plants. Growing strong can turn out to be very tough if we need to do it lonely, but if we just watch from the right angle, everyone can be beautiful. Here we have two autoflowers behind a tree stump. There is not much more about those two, but they for sure look absolutely stunning in this location. I don't know how you think about it, but I could watch photography like this for days. But now, let us see what our world famous strain Piku Typhoon did, shall we? Again, these two were planted close to each other next to an old tree stump and a bit protected by some sticks and branches. I think Noobie hoped that one of the plants will be a male, but it turned out different and he ended up with two girls sharing the same room. To prevent them from shading each other too much, he let both wear a string. Okay, that's too much. He bound both of them with a string to different directions. This should definitely help. And their two brothers grew at other spots and were removed then. And like this, the two girls just continued to grow and made a really great addition to the flora. Especially this picture looks really amazing. I don't even want to describe how amazing it looks. I think you should look at it for yourself a bit to really appreciate it. It's just perfect. And as the girls grow and produce flowers, they even turn slightly purple, which looks really nice. And again, what you can see there is pure beauty. It is just stunning. But it's not only the beauty alone. The amount of flowers these two produce is very nice as well. The style of the leaves is also very cool. They have very long and separated fingers. These are the last two pictures I got of the plants for you. But I don't know if they were made just before the harvest near of the end of September. But as you can see, these flowers became very nice and purple. Both of the plants were almost man-sized and if you just watch the flowers, yes, they could mature a bit longer. But especially in the cold and humid weather in the Finnish fall, they were no exception and got caught by mold as well. And this was the point of harvest, and this summed up the first cannabis growing experience of a man that calls himself Noobie. But as we can tell for sure, this title is undeserved. But what happened afterwards? Our dear Noobie stood in the kitchen and made 190 grams of THC infused coconut butter, which is really green, and enjoyed the best cocoa any one of us ever tasted. Some of the other stuff was used for a tincture and the rest is in glasses. Here a selection. I expected a bit more purple from the shots before, but green should do the job as well. The final amount of yield was something between 100 and 500 grams. Now you have to guess. And now, what can we all learn from Noobie's first experience in mostly his own words? 2 flower beds. Next season he will only plant same strains at the same spot, as now he had different plants in different stages at the same spots and had to visit them more frequently because of that. Topping. The top autoflowers were around 2 weeks behind according to vegetated growth, but caught up in the end and produced a double amount of buds in the end. To seedlings, he had not enough light, and even with a fan, the stems of the seedlings were very thin indoors. Maybe he will get a LED light for this stage. Fertilization. He thought he gave them too much, but in the end it looks like you should give some more if you only worked with chicken shit or similar in the beginning. To big plants, don't put them too close to each other, just not the best idea. For caring for the plants, he checked the plants quite often, but did not defoliate them or similar except for the strings. Maybe it could help against the mold, so worth trying out next season. And using, if we grow our own stuff, we will always have more than enough. So try to make some butter or alcohol infusion. In theory, we are consuming the same cannabinoids, but we all know different consumption means different effects. And this is finally all. Let's see how the man who called himself once Noobie will fill the pages in the next season. But for now, this is the end.